Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Want to ward off evil or discover if your love would be a good partner? We'll tell you which plants you can use. Also, it's close to the end of the growing season and time to clean out the garden. That's just ahead on the Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Dr. Kelly.
Hey,
Dr.
Chris.
Kelly is our horticulture expert, and Mr. D is here.
Howdy.
All right, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, this is Halloween season, Dr. Kelly.
Uh-huh.
Plant superstitions.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kinda
wow.
creepy.
Ward off evil spirits and things like that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all that stuff.
All
So
right,
you want me to start with warding off evil?
Let's start it.
Okie dokie.
All right, let's
well,
do it.
According to legends and
Okay.
superstitions, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that this is not research-based information.
Okay.
This is just purely entertainment purposes
That's right.
only.
Okay.
So y'all don't, take any of this to heart, but it's just fun.
It's fun. Right.
It's fun.
It's fun.
And plants through the ages have really played into a lot of our religious ceremonies and rites. So there's a lot of interesting, weird stuff about plants out there. And one of the main things that plants are used for and were used for long, long ago, maybe still used today, I don't know, at this time of year when the spirits are out,
Right.
is to ward off evil. And of course, garlic is well known,
Right.
to take care of the vampires and I don't know, all these other demons and things that are roaming the earth. So you hang that out, around your door. And then fennel actually is another one.
I didn't know that.
That long ago people would put it outside their houses and would stick the seeds in the keyholes. That's how the spirits get in, it's through the keyholes. So they would stick the seed in there to keep the bad magic away and the black magic and stuff. And it's kind of interesting though, because now we know fennel has some really good health properties to kind of help maybe boost our immune system. So actually, we need to be eating this stuff instead of sticking it in keyholes to boost our immune system up so we can better ward off the boogers when they come. So, and there's a lot of other plants that were used, to ward off evil, but we'll move on to one that is supposed to help you determine whether your partner is worthy.
Yeah, let's hear about this one.
Yeah,
Let's
your
hear about this.
romantic
Right.
partner. And this one in particular I think is kind of interesting because it kind of takes the negative instead of the positive.
Okay.
So what you do, and everybody knows what basil is.
Right.
Very common, #1 selling herb, So what you need to do, if you have a prospective romantic person that you're interested in, you need to slip him or her a sprig of basil.
Ah, sprig
And
of
if
basil.
it dies or wilts, that's a really good indication that they are impure.
Which
And-
could be good or bad.
Depending on what you want, right?
And unworthy,
That's right. Unworthy.
So unworthy, yeah, I like that. Unworthy and
All right.
impure.
That would be bad.
So yeah, well maybe you were looking for somebody impure. So that would be a good test, if you're looking for that kind of stuff. Okay, let's talk about
man.
how witches are able to fly.
All
You
right,
ever
let's do
wonder
that.
that?
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna tell you how to do it.
All right.
You take some foxglove and then you get some lard, animal fat.
Lard.
You make a big balm out of it, like an ointment,
Okay.
and you rub, the witches would rub that all over them, rub it on their broomstick, and they could fly.
And they can fly.
Yeah, so I don't know whether I'd trust that though. Get up on the roof with my broomstick and jump off when I'm covered with lard and foxglove, which is a poison.
Right, it's a
so
poison, right.
I don't
Set
know.
it on fire. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe that would work. So when the New World was discovered, it opened up a lot of new plants for the
Okay.
Europeans.
All right.
And they didn't quite know what to make of some of these things. And see, they'd never seen potatoes. So, Irish potatoes.
Okay.
So, and the thing that bothered the Europeans about the Irish potatoes was that they grew underground.
Ah,
So
sneaky.
they were
It's
considered
kinda
to be the devil's food.
the devil's
food.
How about that?
So they still liked potatoes. So what they had to do to ward off the devil was to plant them on Good Friday and then water them with holy water. And then you could eat them, and then, you know, the devil wouldn't get you. So
Then you can eat them.
that makes total sense to me.
All right,
you know?
Good Friday. There you
Yeah.
go, Mr. D.
Yep.
Still has too many carbs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and there's two interesting things I really want to talk about.
Okay.
And one of them is pretty serious, and that was, you know, the Salem witch trials. Back in
Remember hearing about
1691,
those.
long time ago, and people have often wondered what in the world got into those young women, those 8 young women, that made them think that they were possessed by demons and that they had been bewitched. And so now researchers think that they have found a plausible explanation as to, you know, what caused that.
Oh, wow.
And there is there's a fungus that can infect rye. And rye was known to be grown by the early settlers as a, you know, a grain for making bread and whatever. And we know that this fungus is called ergot. And it's still around today. They are no resistant strands of rye. But to keep these spores that go through the whole process and wind up in whatever product, this causes people to have hallucinations, seizures, and to feel like stuff is crawling on their skin. So the conditions for this ergot to contaminate a rye crop is wet weather. And they've gone back through the historical records and found out that that winter was a particularly wet winter in Salem. And this was, people in Europe were just finding out that this was the association of this contamination of rye caused this, you know, these symptoms.
Wow.
But it never got to the colonies apparently in time.
Wow.
So they think that that's a real plausible explanation for what made these girls have all these weird symptoms. And they think that was it because it came and went so quickly, and that there was a wet winter, and the symptoms very much mimicked, you know, the symptoms of what can happen when you eat this contaminated grain. So rye growers now prevent that very easily by just washing the grain in salt water. So it kills the fungus. Isn't that crazy?
Salt water.
Absolutely crazy. Okay, the next one I want to talk about is, you ever wondered how the legend of vampires got started? Huh? You ever wondered that?
I have.
Okay, good. That was the answer I was looking for.
Yes, yes.
So, the thing about it is, you know, you have all of these symptoms of people who are supposed to be vampires.
Oh, gosh.
And when you go back to Eastern Europe and you think about when this kind of started, Bram Stoker's novel, Dracula, kind of brought it all to a head because he took the symptoms of a known disease that was ravaging Eastern Europe at that time. And it is a disease called pellagra.
Pellagra.
Pellagra. And it's really, really interesting because another, from the New World, corn. Corn was, of course, discovered with the Native Americans, and the South Americans used corn as a staple. But what they did to prevent the pellagra, which happens if you just have corn as your main diet. Niacin is not available in corn at all. So if you just live on corn, which is a big grain crop, you can develop this disease called pellagra, which is a vitamin deficiency of niacin. Well, the symptoms of pellagra are just really bizarre because it gives you this real pale pallor. You're sensitive to light. It makes you photosensitive. And when you get out in the light, it causes blisters.
Does it make you want to bite people?
It does. It does. You're right. It makes, one of the things is dementia and just dementia and aggressiveness.
There you go.
Just being real irritable and ill. And you know, these people would only get around at night, and they'd be real mean, and you know, and they were real pale. And also, one of the other symptoms in dogs is called black tongue. And you can get ulcers in your mouth, and you don't want to eat because of all these ulcers, and they bleed, and then you get this crust of red, you know, blood around your mouth. So, you know, people are saying, well, they've been sucking blood. And actually, one of the symptoms is you don't want to eat, but you want to suck things. And you want to eat weird food, you know, like bugs and vermin. And I mean, it's just really a bizarre disease.
I see you could talk about this all day, can you?
Yeah, it's really
That's
crazy.
Halloween stuff.
Yeah.
Well, look.
We need to move on, huh?
What are you doing these days?
Me? Yeah. Oh, well, besides doing this.
Besides doing this, talking about Halloween spirits.
I work for the Mississippi Development Authority, which is I work for the tourism part, which is the welcome centers of Mississippi. We have 13, and I just wanted to promote the tourism of Mississippi and our welcome centers. And this month they have theme months, and this month is the month to promote agritourism in Mississippi.
We know all about that.
So yeah, y'all visit the welcome centers, any travelers coming through Mississippi, and there's really, really helpful people there that can plan out their trip for them, make reservations, do all kind of helpful things to help promote tourism. So I'm having a big time. I enjoy it.
We know you're having a good time.
Yeah.
This is fun. Halloween stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Where's the Stevie Wonder music when you need it? Very superstitious. All right, thank you, Dr. Kelly. Appreciate that. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. All right, Mr. D, garden cleanup. What do we need to know? Because that time is here.
So you want me to follow this with garden cleanup?
Well, maybe you can get the gnomes to help you clean up, right?
Yeah.
Ward off evil.
That's the
exactly.
first thing I would do. Have a gnome out there and count on it. Let it do what it'll do.
At night, yeah.
Do what it does.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know. With garden cleanup, use a lot of common sense. I guess is one of the things that is really, really important. Let the gnomes do what they'll do. Let Mother Nature help you out a little bit. You know, try to deter. First thing I would probably do is if you have any disease plants that the gnomes left, or any rot, you know, plants that died because of fungal infections or something like that, get them out of there, and you can either put them in your trash to go off to a landfill somewhere, or if you've got a burn pit, you can burn them, you know, destroy them.
Yeah.
Do not put them in your compost bin. The healthy plants that you've got, you can compost them. All the annuals, the tomato, the plants, the things like that were healthy, you can put into a compost. Corn stalks, you know, just anything that's left out there, you know, get it off. If the plants are small enough, use your mower to mulch them. You don't really have to get it off the garden site. You can mulch, and you can have it ready to incorporate into the soil next spring when you get out there and till it. But as much as you can leave, the more that you can leave there, the better off you are. We learn that in farming. You know, the more you take off of a field, the more fertilizer you have to add, because there are, you know, nutrients in the plant material. If you have any inorganic material out there, stakes and black plastic and things like that, of course, get that out of there, especially before you run over it with your mower, because that can create you some problems. If you have young trees and things like that, you can try to protect them from voles and things like that. That kind of gets up more into the winterizing things, but you can sun scald. You can paint the lower trunk and lower limbs with white latex paint to prevent sun scald, which can be a problem, and things like that. You can, if you have anything you want to protect, you can also use hardware cloth or tree guards and things like that to help protect from voles and deer and things like that. You know, it's a pretty good idea and not a bad idea to go with a cover crop too, if you want to. I mean, you're going to have a cover crop there pretty quick. Just the winter weeds are going to come on, and
that's
they're going to provide a natural cover crop for you pretty quick. But if you want to go with you know, a clover or ryegrass or something like that, that's not a bad idea to have a cover
vetch
crop.
is what I know a lot of gardeners, the hairy vetch, and they put out as a ground cover. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But that's pretty much it. Get you ready for springtime. Of course, by all means, soil test. You know, now is a good time to add lime. You know, go ahead and get your soil tested, and if you need to add lime, now's the time to do that.
I know a lot of older folks always throw their rows up in the fall. So, you know, mount their rows up. And so in the spring, which is typically can be really, really wet, they can get in there and go ahead and plant, because actually what you've got is almost raised beds.
Yeah.
So I've heard a lot of, I mean, my parents and grandparents always did that. They'd throw their what they call throw their rows up in the fall, so they could get into the garden early. Now that doesn't take care of your winter weeds and stuff, but you know, they just plant their cabbage or whatever right in amongst the, I guess, the winter weeds.
Well, up on top of those rows, it dries down faster.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And it warms up quicker.
Yep.
It's a little bit
Like a raised
warmer.
bed.
So, you know,
that's right.
You can get out there a little quicker if you do that.
So how are we talking about though, when people throw their rows up?
Well, I'd say, you know, about 8 inches. Whatever, you know, when you have a little tiller with a furrow on it, a little plow on it.
Right.
Whatever, you know. Some people use tractors. Yeah.
And this is also a good time, you know, in the fall, of course, the leaves are dropping off the trees or whatever. And I used to tell folks, instead of just raking them up and put them on the curb, run off them with the lawnmower.
Mulch them up.
Right,
Leave them there. Leave them there.
Do what nature does, but just do it a little faster.
Right, because I'm surprised how many people, just bag them up and put them on the side of the road.
I know.
Yeah, on the curb.
One of the best inventions they ever did was making a mulching blade on your lawnmower.
Yeah.
It's just nutrient recycling. It just makes sense.
Yeah,
you know?
it does.
And
you're putting it right back in the soil.
And it's neater when you're mowing your yard. You don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easier. You're done when you get done. You know?
Yep.
All
No
right,
raking. No more raking.
No more raking, right. No more raking.
It's a good thing.
Good thing, right. Appreciate that, Mr. D. And hopefully those garden owners can help out too, right?
There you are.
All right. Thank you much.
It's important to know about the proper timing to pick peppers. Peppers are very strongly attached to the plant, and if you just try to pull the pepper off, you're going to break the branches. So I use pruning shears. Pruning shears, scissors, or a good sharp knife, if you're very careful, will do a really good job. Okay, I'm going to pull there's one on this plant that is clearly ready to be harvested. We have a red one down here. The sweetest bell peppers are red. The green bell peppers are the least sweet bell peppers. They're all good, depending on how you like bell peppers. I'll leave a little bit of stem on that one. This pepper is ready, it's sweet, still has a little bit of green left. I could have left it another day or two and I would be okay. So this is the sweetest pepper on this plant. Moving on down, these are beginning to turn a little bit yellow. I'm going to come on down and it's reached full size. It's not completely red, but it's next sweetest. Peppers are like tomatoes. If you have a cold weather coming, a frost coming, I would pick all of the big peppers off of this plant because they will continue to ripen inside. They won't be quite as good as if they ripen on the plant, or sweeter if it's ripened on the vine, but it's still a really good product.
All right, here's our Q&A session. Y'all ready?
Yep.
These are good questions. All right, here's our first viewer email. What herbs can be grown year-round indoors on a window sill? And this is from Lily, Nashville.
Okay.
All right.
That'd be basil.
Yeah, exactly, basil.
Basil?
Well,
Oh,
actually, you're only limited by the availability of light.
Right.
You know, you need a really good south-facing window, or you need to, put some lights or something so that you can get some really, strong sunlight.
And how much light are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about A lot.
A lot.
A south-facing unobstructed window, or even a west window, or like I say, you know, you could put it in an area that has bright incandescent or fluorescent lights. But basil will grow. I like the chives.
Oregano,
yeah,
probably.
Parsley.
Parsley.
You know, I mean, there's
Mint
you can grow any of them. Yeah, you really can.
Yeah.
And the problem with the light is, you know, if you don't have good light, they're going to stretch. But hey, you know, that's okay. You just keep chopping them off and using them.
Right. And make sure you have, you know, well-drained soil media.
Well, true. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Because
Yeah.
it has to be well-draining for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So there you have it, Lily. So you have a lot of options there,
Yeah.
right? A lot of options. All right. Including the basil.
Exactly.
All right, here's our next via email. What is causing these nasty looking circles on my tomatoes? They start when the fruit is green and get worse. And this is from Miss Phyllis Rosemart. And I actually met Miss Phyllis and her husband at Rosemart Country Fair. And I told her to send us a question, and she did. So thank you, Miss Phyllis.
So yeah, we need to be really
all right.
on our toes.
We got to be on
now.
our toes. So here you go, Miss Phyllis. All right. So what do we think that is?
You want to go?
You go. I'll back you up.
All right.
I'll back you up.
Well, according to my research, I found there's so many things that
Right.
can happen with tomatoes that can go wrong. You know, even though they're the most popular probably vegetable crop we grow
Without
for a
a
home
doubt,
gardener,
yeah.
you know, there's all kind of things that can go wrong, and a lot of them we can't control.
Right.
And this, I think, is one of those things.
Right.
It's an environmental disorder that is brought on by availability of water or not availability of water that can cause these cracking and rough spots on the fruit. So,
Specifically, it's called cuticle cracking. Cuticle cracking.
so the cuticle cracks, yes, and it makes this, but there's nothing wrong with tomato. You just peel it off and eat it, you know. So,
That's what I did a little bit of research, and growth cracks is another thing I've seen it called. But Judy Sedbrook, Colorado State University, had kind of an interesting comment about it. She said the tomato is growing so fast it split its pants.
yeah.
But you know, especially after dry a period and
Right.
get
Yeah.
excess moisture, or if you're not watering enough, and
Right.
you remember you're not watering enough, then you go out there and water, and it's a physiological problem, abiotic problem.
Right,
But,
right.
Unfortunately, it can be little bitty shallow cracks, or it can be deeper
Right.
cracks, and if they're deeper cracks, sometimes you can get
Yeah, you
infected
get
with some other
secondary
secondary
Right.
problems.
Fungus that gets in there.
Which you have to
yeah.
go with the fungicides then.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
just
yeah.
Inconsistent
Well, just-
watering.
You know, the fruit is still edible,
Right.
you know, and that one that she sent the picture of, you know, I just peel that stuff off because it's only on the epidermis. It's not down in, unless it's a deep crack, like you said.
Right.
You know, then it could be other pathogens in there causing some problems, but.
Or you may have to go with a different variety. I mean, of course, your heirloom tomatoes have thinner skin,
Yeah,
and your
so
hybrids
they'd
have
be
thicker.
more susceptible, yeah.
So they'd be more susceptible.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's nothing you did.
But it's nothing you did,
Yeah.
Miss Phyllis.
So,
Nothing you
yeah,
did. Right.
that's a good point about it.
All right. So thank you for that question, Miss Phyllis. All right. Here's our next email. There is a lot of crop dusting by my house. I would like to have bees and lots of flowers so I can help our flying friends. I don't know what they are spraying. If I plant flowers by a crop dusted field, will I be planting a death sentence to our flying insect friends? And this is from Jennifer in Bales, Tennessee. All right. Interesting question, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people are worried about that from contamination of crop
And for
dusters
reason.
in farm. Yeah, and sometimes for good reason, because you know you can have contamination. It's been known to happen, but pretty unlikely because
It's all communication. I would I would go talk to my farmer neighbors and find out what they're using. Let them know if you have bees. If she wants to have bees, I assume she's talking about a beehive or something like
Right,
that.
right.
Be sure that she lets her farmer neighbors know that she has bees, because then they will let her know. I think they will let her know if they're going to be spraying something that could likely be a problem. But just because they're spraying a field, crop dusting, you know, just because they're spraying field, it doesn't mean that they're using insecticides.
no.
It doesn't mean they're using a herbicide. It could be a fungicide, and it's very likely a fungicide. There are a lot of fungicides used to prevent diseases in crops that probably wouldn't be a problem on flowers. Might even help.
It'd be interesting to
Prevent
know what
diseases.
crops they're growing, where it's cotton or
Yeah, that is-
corn
yeah.
or
But
soybeans or whatever, you
Right.
know.
Okay.
But
Because now they're, putting defoliants on cotton.
Right.
So, I noticed some crop planes, doing the defoliant this time of year on the cotton that's
That
a
would
little
be
later.
interesting to know that. Yeah.
and if you had drift from a defoliant, that could make your plant sick, but it's
Sure.
not going to make the bird sick.
No.
You know,
It'd
it's
be
not
more
going
a
to,
plant problem.
It could be make your
But you're right.
defoliate
She
your
just
flowers.
needs to communicate.
Communication is
Yeah.
very
Good
important.
neighbors.
Yeah.
Good neighbors.
Yeah, just
Yep.
talk to them, get to
Being
meet
a good
them.
neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, so there you have it, Jennifer. We appreciate the question. Yeah, talk to your neighbors. Get to know your neighbors and see what they're spraying, right?
Yep.
The first approach. So, Mr. D, Dr. Kelly, it's been fun.
We're done?
We're done.
So
Thank you much.
we're just getting primed. We need some more questions.
We are done. Thank you much. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. Did you miss a show and want to catch up? Everything we do is online at familyplotgarden.com. Go watch what you missed. We also have several videos each week that are only available online. Go check it out. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.